sole creator, sustainer, and cherisher of the universe, and may his peace and blessing be upon his last prophet and messenger, Muhammad, and upon all prophets who preceded him. My dear brothers and sisters, and forgive me for this informality. I know many of you are dignitaries. All of you to me are dignitaries. I greet you in the same equal way with the greeting of all of the prophets, the greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Which means may the peace, blessings, and mercy of Allah, God, be with you all. I'd like in the very beginning to thank you all and thank the organizers for giving me the honor with my very little knowledge to share whatever little I have with you on this very crucial topic on human rights. Inshallah, we will begin by a brief introduction and then deal with the maqasid or supreme objectives of Islamic jurisprudence, and inshallah we'll make a few comments on that, hopefully within 30 and no more than 40 minutes. To begin with, I believe that there is a need in this world, in our world today, for a paradigm shift. A shift between classifying people in terms of East versus West, or North versus South, as some might be saying today. In fact, what we need to move to is a concept that has been called a global village. We are all living in the same global village, interdependent and interrelated to one another. We need to have a paradigm shift from speaking about this race and that race, each at each other's throat, but we have to think in a concept of one race, the human race. We need to move from the situation or paradigm of conflict to that of cooperation. I would submit that in this presentation you might notice that I am trying to also see similarities and common ground between the concept of human rights, both from an Islamic perspective as well as even secular perspective. I'm not saying they're identical, but I let you yourself come to some conclusion as to whether we are really that far apart or do we have anything to share at all. The traditional approach to human rights you find in lots of writings, speak about freedom of this and freedom of that. You know, there's all common things that we are all familiar with. It occurred to me many years ago while speaking on this topic in Harvard Law School in the United States, that perhaps we can approach the topic also from an Islamic perspective, from the standpoint of something known as maqasid al-Sharia, which means the supreme objectives of Sharia, Islamic jurisprudence. And these maqasid or supreme objectives, it's not necessarily that they are listed in the Quran, that this is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These were deducted or deduced, I should say, by scholars from the study of the various aspects of Islamic law from the Quran and the teaching of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. They are not really hard, fast rule, but in any case, ever since the famous Imam Shatibi classified them, it has been a sort of standard classification that is with us until this day. In essence, they speak about 5 broad objectives rather than dealing with a specific law. 5 broad, overarching objectives of Islamic law. And that is to safeguard, in that order, more or less of importance, to safeguard faith, life, mind, and then the 4th one is normally they say protection of the family or honor of women, but actually it is more than that. As I say, human dignity, which includes family and property. And what I submit here is that if we go through these 5 and compare them to see what principles they establish or enunciate, and then we can see whether it is relevant even to a secular world or not. But before I start, I must comment on what I said earlier. These are not hard and fast rules. it has been very, very commonly accepted because of their comprehensiveness. However, we find, for example, a recent scholar from North Africa, Tahir bin Ashur, who said that you could even add to that a sixth objective, that is justice. Others might consider justice as, part of these five objectives. But let me follow the traditional five and perhaps articulate a little bit what the Quran and Hadith or teaching of the Prophet Muhammad say about each of them. You take first and foremost really is to protect faith. Okay, when we speak about protection of faith, we're not speaking about protection of the Islamic faith. Actually, if you look into the Quran, you find that the protection of faith is for every human being. The Quran is quite clear in the 256th ayah in the second surah, chapter. لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي. Let there be no coercion in the lesson. Some people translate it, let there be no compulsion in the lesson. But compulsion even strong. Ikrah actually could be even coercion, pressure, bribe, twisting arms without necessarily using, brutal or physical force, which is a very revealing expression in the Quran. In fact, the Quran says it clearly in the 18th surah. The people of the cave or the companions of the cave normally recite it every Friday. It says, this is the truth from your Lord. Whoever wills, man sha'a, whoever wishes or wills to believe, let him or her believe. And use the identical term, and whoever wishes or wills not to believe or reject the message of Islam, let them reject. In other words, the right to accept faith is equivalent to the right also of rejecting it. This is the word of Allah, the Quran, not interpretation or this is that. So decisively stated in the Quran. The consequences of believing in God or not is not up to us to evaluate or judge on this earth. It's up to God in the day of judgment. Not only this, we find that the Quran is quite specific that freedom of belief implies also freedom of worship, the way a person is convinced in his or her heart. For example, one of the most amazing references in the Quran, that's in chapter 22, known as Surah Al-Hajj, that's ayah 39 and 40. Basically, it says, had it not been that Allah, means God, restrains or checks the power of one group by the other, meaning what people say countervailing power that Allah created in this universe, that some people might be powerful, but if they get too powerful and become so powerful nation or whatever, then they become more tyrannical and more overbearing. So that's why Allah created this balancing of powers. So once in a while people rise up, but other people, stop them. It says if it had not been for that checking of power, meaning there would be lots of tyranny, lots of oppression, and you know how that oppression is expressed in the Quran? لَأُدِّمَتْ صَوَامِعُ وَبِعَدَدٍ monasteries, synagogues, churches, and mosques would have been destroyed. It's rather interesting that in this verse, it speaks basically about the protection of places of worship, first of other people and then mosques coming after that, which is a revealing order, reminding Muslims that if you happen to be in power, then it is your moral and religious obligation to protect the places of worship of other people who are more vulnerable than you are, because you might be a majority, you might be powerful. Protect the places of worship of others before even protecting your mosques, because if you're a Muslim, obviously you protect your places of worship, but it puts others ahead of you. It's rather interesting the way it is stated in the Quran. When it comes to dealing with other people of other faith communities, other beliefs, the Quran calls for peaceful dialogue, not dialogue with mission.